Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking something absolutely mind-bending. We're diving into a mathematical framework that actually unites the discrete, chunky, combinatorial logic of number theory with the continuous macroscopic spacetime that we live in every single day. If you've ever wondered how the fundamental code of reality generates the physics we experience, well, you are in exactly the right place.
Here is our roadmap for getting from abstract primes to physical reality. First, we'll hit the cosmic equation, then unroll the Euler product, look at the functional equation, dive into thermodynamics, and finally, arrive at the holographic boundary. Let's jump right in.
Section 1, the cosmic master equation. All right, take a look at this. This is the ultimate master equation we're talking about, the Universal Global Automorphic L-Function. It looks pretty compact, right? But this is literally the single analytic object unifying geometry, dynamics, and physical law all at once. Notice how it takes an automorphic representation and runs it through a multi-channel tensor product representation. This isn't just an abstract math formula, it's the cosmic partition function itself. It embeds the spectral data for everything, from classical geodetics right down to limit cycle geometries.
And what you're seeing here brilliantly illustrates exactly what this equation actually does. It acts as a bridge. On the left side, we've got the discrete, combinatorial logic of number theory and adeles running local stabilization codes. Over on the right, you have emergent macroscopic reality, smooth space-time geometry, classical trajectories, physical laws, the whole shebang. Our master equation sits perfectly in the middle, translating the fundamental arithmetic code into the continuous reality we actually measure.
Moving on to Section 2, unrolling the Euler product.
Okay, so how does this cosmic partition function actually work under the hood? Well, we have to deconstruct that massive global tensor product into its localized prime factors. We start by constructing a highly structured global cuspidal automorphic representation. Looking at the math, you can see it factorizes into a restricted tensor product. It breaks down into an Archimedean, continuous state handling smooth branch cuts, that's the infinity symbol you see, and a restricted tensor product of local representations across all finite crimes.
Now, the absolute key here is understanding the Adele ring. Think of it as the foundational discrete bulk space that's running these local p-adic stabilizer codes. When you see the real numbers crossed with the product of all p-adic fields, you are looking at an infinite discrete network. It literally serves as the hardware for our universe's code. Notice how the global function explicitly unpacks into these local, unrolled factors. See that product symbol over p? The equation is calculating a determinant involving the local Langlands parameter at each and every prime. These unpacked local factors act as grand canonical statistical weights. So effectively, the cosmic equation resolves down into 6 foundational geometric subsectors.
And when we look closely at these local factors, we see they explicitly map to physical tasks in the real world. One sector evaluates Arakelov heights for classical geodesics, while another enforces an anti-symmetric phase lock to pin down isolated limit cycles. Essentially, the local Satake parameters, which are generated from prime numbers, are the things dictating the geometric rules of physical space.
Which brings us to Section 3, the global functional equation.
So with infinite primes and wildly fluctuating local states constantly interacting across the vastness of this Adele ring, how exactly does the universe prevent total mathematical chaos? Why doesn't space-time geometry just completely shatter? I mean, why doesn't the system just crash?
Well, the answer lies in the global functional equation. It acts as an incredible fault-tolerant shield. For our universe to be mathematically valid, it requires strict automorphic invariance under a generalized scale inversion. Look at the symmetry in this equation. By swapping the variable s for 1 minus s, the partition function maps perfectly back onto itself. This proves the universe literally operates as a self-correcting calculation. Translating these variables gives us a fascinating peek under the hood. Check out the Swan conductor term in the exponent. This acts as an absolute stability enforcer. If a geometric anomaly tries to bubble up and manifest physically, bam, the Swan conductor shoots to infinity. This shatters the automorphic invariance and forces the equation to instantly redistribute the error. The localized error is absorbed by the local root number, that's the W term, which then redistributes it as phase shifts across a complex torus.
This flow shows exactly how anomalies get handled. Continuous fluctuations try to distort space-time, right? But they hit that functional equation constraint. From there, finite primes localize the error, and if those Swan conductors spike, mathematical chaos is strictly forbidden. Spacetime doesn't collapse precisely because the functional equation traps these singular defects and transforms them into perfectly stable interference wave packets.
Section 4, Thermodynamics and Phase Transitions.
Next up, we need to push our mathematical object to a thermodynamic limit and see what happens to the physical structure. We do this by mapping our complex scaling variable, S, to inverse temperature, beta. In this equation, as S approaches 1/2, it corresponds precisely to reaching a critical inverse temperature edge. To see the physical impact, we extract the global free energy of the arithmetic fabric directly from the logarithm of our partition function. We are essentially zooming right in on a critical thermodynamic edge.
And as we hit that critical boundary, something absolutely remarkable happens. The system undergoes a massive first-order Hawking-Page phase transition. Look at the divergence in the bottom equation. This isn't just a clever math trick. It's a first-order divergence where the system minimizes action by dumping its entropy directly into the macroscopic metric tensor. The prime gas is literally undergoing a gravitational collapse.
Look at the stark contrast between these two phases we just crossed. At high temperatures, before hitting the critical edge, we just have a chaotic, dissipative gas of independent primes, where local root numbers fluctuate wildly. There is zero macroscale geometry. But drop the temperature toward that critical edge, we transition rapidly into a low-temperature phase, a gravitationally collapsed, ordered macroscale manifold. A coherent de Sitter spacetime emerges straight out of the chaos.
Finally, Section 5, the holographic boundary emerges. This thermodynamic condensation really sets the stage for our grand architectural synthesis. Picture the Bruhat Tits tree here, representing the bulk space of our discrete p-adic stabilizer codes. The complex variable S acts exactly as the radial coordinate of this bulk geometry, flowing left to right along the branches of the network. Moving S is like running a renormalization group flow deep down into the interior of the tree. And when we arrive exactly at S equals 1/2, the boundary horizon forms. The infinite, discrete network of the Adele ring is the bulk, the underlying code. And the thin edge? That is the readout, the reality. The smooth, real-valued continuous metric geometry that we physically experience is essentially just the readout precipitating on the boundary horizon from the underlying error-corrected code. The thermodynamic limit of this cosmic partition function leads us directly to a wildly profound conclusion. Physical existence is a boundary phenomenon of number theory. That's right. Everything we touch, see, and measure is simply the stable, low-temperature condensate of a beautifully tuned universal calculation. If smooth spacetime geometry, the predictability of physical law, and the determinism of classical trajectories are literally just the inescapable, error-corrected, stable interference patterns of the Adele ring, then we have to ask ourselves something huge. As we look up at the night sky, are we essentially living inside a self-healing arithmetic hologram? That is definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.